All right, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we barely squeeze out a loss in this last game. Week 11, Washington Redskins fall to the New Orleans Saints in overtime. This is going to be an interesting week for Redskin fans. This is going to be a very interesting week for the fan base, more so than the team, I think. Because I think the fan base kind of understood this situation to be... We all have different interpretations of what this game was supposed to be. There's going to be the area of this football franchise that is dead set on this football game being totally winnable, a game that we should have won, a game that was going to march this football team into what was going to be an easy couple of weeks of football and a shot at the playoffs. They are substantially hurt by the results of this football game. There's another facet of this football franchise that took a look at this game, kind of seeing it for what it was in regards to an 8-2 New Orleans football team that was playing at home. Let me say that again: an 8-2 New Orleans football team playing at home. That doesn't allow a lot of points on offense or on defense, and racks up quite a bit of points on offense. And having the Washington Redskins in their current state of affairs with their injuries, walking into their dome, pretty much, being unproven in a lot of different areas, being able to come in at 4-6 to try and sneak out a victory. I think that there were a lot of us, especially, you saw my last video, I didn't necessarily have a whole lot of hope in this football game. In fact, if anything, I predicted this football game to be a little bit of a blowout. It was anything but. I think that so far, and marking my words on this, I think out of all of our games this year, this game has been the most defining game of our entire season. This game was probably... this game and the Seattle game are really close. And what's the significance between those two? Both of those games were played on the road against teams that play very well at home, especially this season. Taking a look at this New Orleans game, we stepped up in a huge way. We came up in this football game and scored 31 points on this football team and forced them to overtime. We are the third best team in the NFC East. And the New Orleans Saints are walking away at first place in their division, a division that is, I don't necessarily know exactly what their division looks like. They play in a fairly tough conference, or in a tough division, but the NFC East, I think, has proven to be one of the best, if not the best, divisions in football at this point. All three of our teams out of four of our teams are playing severe smash-mouth football at this point. The Cowboys are starting to wane off just a little bit with the recent news of Ezekiel Elliott. The Philadelphia Eagles, of course, are the Philadelphia Eagles sitting at the top of this division and one of the best teams in the NFL right now. And the Washington Redskins are trying to claw their way out of an injury-laden football season right now and just trying to make the playoffs with a ton of potential, but a couple points here and there that are keeping us from getting what we believe should be a better season. Taking a look at this football game, there were a lot of things about this game I think that were unfortunate. A lot of things that happened in this football game that, if you're talking about a game of inches, there were a couple of inches that we lost and we left on the football field. But overall, as far as an overall performance goes, guys, I am not upset with this game at all. I am sad, and it sucks that we lost. But maybe walking into this football game thinking we were going to lose helped my disposition just a little bit. I did not predict us to win this football game. I predict us to fall even farther than what we were before we came in. I predicted us to fall. We did fall a little bit. I predicted us to fall farther, but we didn't quite fall as far as I thought we were going to. I didn't even predict us to pull out 31 points against this team. I predicted maybe, 13, 14 points, but nothing above 20. We probably weren't even going to come close to scoring 20. And this was a team that was probably going to post 30, 30 to 34 on us. A good portion of these points that they scored, their offense did not get rolling until very late in the fourth quarter in this football game. Other than that, we were looking at 5 to 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter of this game thinking that we were on track to winning it. that given some mishaps on our part and some severe offense on theirs, this really wasn't looking too good for them. We were looking like we were possibly going to win. And mind you, ladies and gentlemen, we led for almost the entirety of this game. A majority of this football game, we were ahead. It was New Orleans trying to catch up to us. And there needs to be a certain measure of calm to be taken from that. You need to take a look at that situation and say, given the injuries and given the people that we've had to bring in here to field a football team, given the running back situation, given the people who haven't performed on offense as far as wide receivers go, the mishmash of linemen that we have and the linemen that we have that are injured, how is this team able to come in here and perform the way in which they did? It's taking a lot of team effort. It's taking a lot of spirit. It's taking a lot of some of that extra stuff that a lot of teams don't have right now to be able to come out and perform the way that they did. And I have to say, overall, I was very, very impressed with the performance of this team. Going off onto the recap, starting off with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins threw 22 attempts out of 30. Actually, threw 22 completed passes, 22 for 32. Throwing for 322 yards. He had 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's refutable. He actually did throw an interception. It was just reversed. He was sacked twice. QBR rating is 79.1, which isn't bad. That was actually better than Drew Brees' QBR at this point. Rushing the football, Samaje Perine. I'm going to go in a little bit on Samaje Perine later on in this video, but Samaje Perine had 23 carries for 117 yards. He was averaging 5 yards a carry. That average, that's a generous average, and it's probably very, very accurate. But I would have to say he was averaging anywhere from 2.5 to 3 yards a carry. But there were some big, big runs he had in this football game, the longest of which was for 30 yards. Chris Thompson was right behind him, probably would have had a lot more, four rushes for 17 yards if he wouldn't have gotten hurt. And behind him, of course, was Kirk Cousins, who had 11 yards rushing with 3 carries. 2 of those were trying to go for first downs, one of which he was successful, the other one of which he was not. Receiving in this game, we had our receivers. Leading the receivers was Josh Doctson with 4 receptions for 81 yards. A couple of those were some really, really deep passes. Jamison Crowder had 7 receptions, but for 72, what you would expect from a slot receiver. A majority of those were chunk yardage plays on his part. Vernon Davis had 3 really, really big receptions in this game for 67 yards. He had 2 really, really big drops as well. Ryan Grant played a phenomenal game. 3 big catches again for him with 59 yards. Jeremy Sprinkle, I think, got his first catch of the game. 1 reception for a 7-yard touchdown. Great play on his part. As far as the offense goes, that's pretty much. I'm not going to go into exactly what the New Orleans Saints did. The New Orleans Saints. Some of the things to take a look at. Some of the crucial things that ended up happening in this football game that I think helped us losing this. Of course, you're going to have to bring up the overtime run for, what was it, 3rd and short. It looked like to be about 30 yard. We ended up not converting on that 3rd down. We ended up having to punt. That was one of the crucial things that happened in this football game that allowed us to lose it. Also, there was a field goal opportunity that was missed because Stacey McGee had a false start in that particular drive that forced us to punt. Now, if we would have been able to pull that off, this game would have been 3 points higher than what the final ended up being. You have to think about that. There were points that were left on this, off on the football field that didn't make it onto the board. Stacey McGee, who, by the way, is a defensive player, being called in. That's how mishmashed we are at this point. We're calling in defensive players on special teams to pretty much block. And the only reason why you have a Stacey McGee, and some of you are asking, well, why the hell is Stacey McGee even in on this line for him to get a false start? I'll tell you why. Because Stacey McGee's a big son of a bitch. That's why. Stacey McGee's a big slab of beef, and he's hard to get around, and that's the only reason you need to buy 5 seconds. 5 seconds to get that ball in the air, and you're going to stick that big slab of beef in there. You just hope that he doesn't move. And that's the big thing. He needs to not move. And he moved. And it cost us. It cost us 3 points. And we knew that was going to come and bite us in the ass later on down the road, and it pretty much did. It was a contributing factor as far as I'm concerned as to why we lost this football game. Also, the defense was unable to pick up New Orleans' offense when they started rolling in the 4th quarter and in overtime. Kobe Fleener ended up having 5 receptions in this football game for almost 100 yards, 5 receptions for 91 yards. All 5 of those receptions came at the very end of the football game. He caught his first pass in the fourth quarter. And Kobe Fleener being a tight end, it is just, at this point, it is obvious that the New Orleans Saints were holding on to that ticket. They were holding on to that knowledge that Washington's defense is not very good at picking up tight ends on a surge, especially tight ends with good hands out in the flat. They can run really good routes, and Kobe Fleener did exactly that in the fourth quarter. They utilized that asset that was available to them, and we were unable to pick it up. Our defenses could not pick up that run. Of course, when you get a Kobe Fleener up and running, well, then, of course, you get an Alvin Kamara that comes out there and just starts running all over us. And with a combination between Fleener, Thomas, and Kamara, you were just seeing an ease for that offense to march down the football field to score a touchdown and put this game into overtime. Then, of course, the overtime drive leading to a field goal that ended up allowing them to win this game from 31-31, eventually making it 34-31. Again, our defense was unable to stop the momentum of the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints, impressive drive. With our overtime offense, we struggled mightily with our first possession. That was a possession where we really needed only to convert twice to get within field goal range to win this football game, but we were unable to. That is an area of concern as far as I'm concerned. Overtime, our overtime play selection, I'm not all that big on. Their defense really stepped up. You take a look at some of the plays that they ended up making, especially on that third down. They stepped up huge. They stepped up huge, and our offense had a really difficult time. Whether we were banged up, whether we were tired, I don't know what the excuses were, but we just did not show up for that overtime drive. Now, one of the things I will talk about as far as Kirk Cousins is concerned, I think I'm going to go ahead and say this. I think Kirk Cousins played one of the best football games of the season in this football game. I was very impressed. And I think when it comes to Kirk Cousins and his performance, there are certain things that we are going to concentrate on that I don't necessarily think are going to do the actual performance, his performance in this game justice. We're going to concentrate on, some of his naysayers are going to concentrate on his performance in overtime. They're going to concentrate on his performance with the interception. They're going to concentrate on his inability to pick up a first down when he ran and scrambled in the fourth quarter. I mean, there's a lot of different things that I think that people are going to take into consideration when it comes to criticizing Kirk Cousins. However, if I'm taking a look at Kirk Cousins from my perspective, to be honest with you, Kirk Cousins had some very good throws in this football game. I had mentioned last week that Kirk Cousins to me was more of a bullet passer as opposed to a guy who can give it a soft touch up and over and pop it in the breadbasket. And I don't know if he heard my video. And God, I really hope that he did, because all of a sudden I started seeing him knock out these game balls and dropping them. His favorite play, and we did this twice in this football game, and both of them were to Vernon Davis, that fade route to the sideline. How many times have I been talking about this? I have talked about this in many of my videos. I want to see us put that football towards the sideline or between that hash mark and that sideline, that area and that zone right there. I want to see us drop more passes in this area, and that is where I felt that Terrell Pryor, despite all of the issues we're having with him right now, I feel his specialty is in this area where we were lobbing footballs to Vernon Davis. That is where I think you could utilize Terrell Pryor and his height. This is another area where I feel Josh Doctson can do well, and he has been doing well. We haven't been throwing that fade route as opposed to that straight to the sideline. He's been able to jump up that 50-50 ball. Given the matchups, given the formations, a lot of single high safety formation, we throw to that far corner to Josh Doctson on a 50-50 ball. I would like to see Kirk Cousins wave off a safety a little bit better at that point, but all that notwithstanding, Vernon Davis had a couple of these in 2 different drives where it was just a beautifully placed football that he ended up catching. Another one where he ended up on third down, ended up getting blitzed, and Kirk Cousins, in the midst of getting hit, ends up throwing it and getting it completed to Chris Thompson, who makes a huge gain. And, of course, one of our touchdowns that we ended up scoring, I believe it was to Ryan Grant. That was an all-out blitz. I mean, I think they messed up on the coverage, but they sent too many people, and the ability to step up and to see that play in the face of getting blitzed, he showed great poise in the pocket, and being able to throw that up and over to get that to him was a great job on his part. And Ryan Grant, of course, being able to catch that football, I mean, how do you mess that up? You really, really can't. But that was a great play by Kirk Cousins. That whole play is all Kirk Cousins. So I was really, really impressed. One of the things that I have issue with is him running the football. There was one of the times he ran the football and he ran right up the middle and he took a shot to the head. And then there was another one where he ran and scrambled and tried to get a first down, came up short and ended up rolling up on the ankle of Chris Thompson and getting Chris Thompson injured. I will just say this on a side note. I'm having issues, and I've mentioned this before. I'm having issues with running quarterbacks getting hit who are trying to go for a first down. This happens all the time. This has happened a lot this offseason. And the first time I brought it up was a Joe Flacco hit. The Joe Flacco hit against Miami, where he ended up going for the first down. These quarterbacks, they see the first down marker and they want to go for the first down marker. And right when they think they've got it, they dive at the last minute when a defender has already committed himself to making a hit. And lowering your center of gravity, lowering your body profile, and getting hit in the head is drawing penalties. I've got a massive problem with that. If you run with the football, you're fair game. If you pass the line of scrimmage and you were trying to get a first down, if you slide, hey, I got no problem with you being off limits. But you need to slide at the right time. You can't slide when it's convenient for you to get a first down after a defender's already committed himself to making the hit. And what I mean by committed to taking the hit, I mean he's already committed to making the hit because he can't do anything else but hit you. He cannot deviate from that hit. He's already made the commitment to hit you. He cannot redirect himself. He cannot miss. He cannot pull back and hold up. He's pretty much already made a commitment to hit you. We ended up drawing a penalty from that, and that was good on us because it allowed us to convert on first down. But he took a massive hit. He took two massive hits in this football game. That second one that he took on the scramble, he took a really, really good shot to the side of the head. You know that rung his bell. That was a scare for us, an even bigger scare because Chris Thompson was a guy that ended up getting hurt in that play, and it's doubtful as to whether he will be back for the remainder of this football season. I think a lot of that kind of got washed over just a little bit as far as coverage goes, because on the very next play on fourth down, we're looking to punt. We faked the punt and ended up giving it to, I believe it was Niles Paul, who went right up the middle to convert on first down and put himself on the rushing board. So that was a surprise play, and that ended up allowing us to drive down the football field and gaining 3 points. So Kirk Cousins, as far as I'm concerned, did a really, really good job in this football game. Only a couple of things that I have issues with. But all that notwithstanding, I think he did a phenomenal job in this game. One of his better games that I've seen him play this year, and a huge argument as to why he's going to be making really, really good contract money coming the end of this season when it is over. The offensive line, banged up and as mashed up as it was, we lost another offensive lineman in this game. I believe it was Sean Loval who went out early. Tyan Secchi ended up coming in and playing in this game as well. We had our moments where we did really, really well. We had moments when we didn't do so well at all. We ran the football quite a bit. Samaje Perine had some. We did not deviate from our commitment to the run. We ran a lot of plays right off in Secchi and Williams off that left-hand side. Only a couple went to the right. There were times we pulled, times we didn't. I was really, really impressed with Chase Roullier in this game. I was really impressed with Chase. It wasn't because of his performance per se being awesome. I was just glad to see he held up. He held up really, really well. Although Chase Roullier was asked to pull on the 3rd and 1 in overtime and he didn't quite make it, you're asking Chase Roullier, a rookie, a guy who's barely even got down his position at this point, to pull on a 3rd down and 1 conversion in overtime, and he ends up getting run into and he doesn't quite make the block. And if anybody in this offensive line that I don't necessarily think I would want to pull, at that point, besides Sean Loval, who's not in the football game and on the sideline with an arm brace on his arm, it would be Chase Roullier, because he's a rookie. And the laundry list of reasons as to why I wouldn't necessarily do that are up there. Did we pull him before in this game? Absolutely. Not exactly the play I would have probably called, but I had no problem with the run. More on that later. Williams, you could tell, was definitely hurt. He held up really, really well in this football game, but you can tell that he's hobbling out there. You can tell that he's hurt. Brandon Sheriff, I believe, was probably the best offensive lineman on this football team. There were times that he made some really, really good plays, really good blocking plays where he just trunked people. And there was even some plays where he was able to get downfield and make some really, really good blocks for our running game. Morgan Moses played really, really well, but you can also tell that he's hobbling. You can also tell that he's hurt. There was a huge scare where he got rolled up on, too, and was really, really slow to get up and was hobbling. Did not come out of the football game. He's got my tough guy award for the year, man. He really, really does as far as that offensive line goes. We got a lot of people playing hurt, but Morgan Moses was hurt very, very early in this season. And every single week, probably since week 2, week 3, he's been in my opinion, on the verge to not playing at all, on the verge to getting hurt for the rest of the season. But the tough guy's been able to go out there. I mean, think about it. Go out on a Monday and roll both your ankles. Just roll the crap out of both of them and do whatever it is you can, and then play in a game on Sunday with those hobbled ankles. It's very, very difficult to do with all the tape jobs in the world. That's probably not doable. It's not conceivable. But yet, guys like that have to step up with the injury list that we have going on right now. Wide receiver position: Jamison Crowder, Josh Doctson, and Ryan Grant. These guys are starting to emerge. This isn't something that can happen on a dime. We just can't expect 1 week for them to not be there to all of a sudden, bam, they're there. We're slowly starting to see the emergence of some of these wide receivers come up. Ryan Grant has been showing us very early on in the season that he's starting to catch some of these balls. He's starting to come up with some big plays, and he's started to put a little bit more on his plate, especially on third down. Starting to gain a little bit more confidence. I think a lot of this is forced because of the lack of performance of a guy like Quick, of a guy like Pryor. We've had to rely on a guy like Grant to be able to come in here, who hasn't shown us anything in the last 2 years, to come in and really start to gain confidence with a Ryan Grant. And he's starting to emerge as probably one of the best wide receivers that we have at the split end position. Jamison Crowder being a slot guy. Jamison Crowder's Jamison Crowder with 7 receptions and for 72 yards. This guy's really, really good at picking up chunk yardage for you. We've even got some reverse plays that are thrown in there for him, some slant routes, hiding in the zone, some out routes. We're doing a really, really good job with Jamison Crowder. He's another one of those guys that's really starting to step up for us. And of course, Josh Doctson. Josh Doctson, we put a lot more faith in the last 2 weeks to be able to go up and get that 50-50 ball. Ever since that week against Kansas City, that drop pass in the end zone, that was honestly a defining moment for him, because it could have been one of those moments where we stopped going to him for a while. And we didn't do that. We didn't lose confidence in Josh. We still would like to see a little bit more out of him, but he's emerging. He's starting to come out. 81 yards in this game, that's a huge step up for him. That's a huge feather in his cap, and each and every single game that goes behind him, he's only going to get better and better and better. And I've been saying this week in and week out, and I'm saying it again. His confidence is going to build. Our confidence in his place in this offense is going to build, and we're going to start red circling more plays that feature him in future games to come. And this is what a great couple of weeks for him to step up. I may not have faith in our ability to make the playoffs. I think that right now our ability to make the playoffs is pretty much behind us. I would have to say we are not making the playoffs with this record. And to tell you the truth, I'm really not all that concerned about it. I'm okay with the 2017 season being down the drain. There are too many other teams in the NFC that have to lose in order for us to be able, teams in other divisions that really have to start losing, and that I don't see that happening in order for us to get up there. It's not necessarily our place in the division. But the more games we have coming up that are not going to be the top division teams, we've played a lot of top division teams. Tons of top division teams. Philadelphia twice. We've had Seattle. We've had New Orleans. We've had Kansas City. I mean, you name it. They've pretty much almost seen the Washington Redskins at this point. So seeing the confidence of these 3 wide receivers moving on into what was looking to be a little bit more of an easier schedule throughout the remainder of this month and next month, it is one of those things that you want to red circle. It's one of those things you want to put an asterisk next to, saying, watch out for these 3. We might be seeing some really good performance out of them. We might be seeing some more plays that are earmarked for those individuals. Now, as far as our defense goes, our defense, I didn't mind the way that our defense played. Matt Ioannidis, even with his clubbed hand, I can't recall a defensive player on our team that's had a club on his hand who's come out and played a phenomenal football game. And Matt Ioannidis is up there, and he's still finding a way to kind of do a fairly decent job of getting to the quarterback. He's not breaking that pocket as much as he was earlier on in the season, but it's good to see him get out there and start making some plays regardless. This offensive line, and I'd mentioned it last week, this offensive line that we went up against is a very, very good offensive line, and it was very, very difficult for this team to really put pressure on Drew Brees. And Drew Brees had some plays where he just sat back there and really could have taken his time to put a well-placed football into any receiver's hands. In a lot of cases, that's exactly what he did, because we just could not get to that quarterback with this with the front four that we were sending at him. We kept having to try to send blitz packages. We sent a lot of blitz packages at Drew Brees. That's what a lot of defenses are having to do right now. Their four-man rushes are not getting to Drew Brees very well, so they're mixing in blitz packages, and that's where Drew Brees is making a lot of his plays. Picking apart zone coverages and picking apart blitz packages. That's where his bread is buttered, and that's where he's doing really, really well. For the most part, I think we did really, really well. One of the heartbreaking moments in this football game was Kendall Fuller. Kendall Fuller at the end of this football game, and I know a lot of you guys know what I'm talking about. You guys are probably doing exactly what I'm doing right now, just rubbing your forehead and cringing and wincing. Kendall Fuller had a pick in the very, very end of this game, which would have spelled the end of the New Orleans Saints on that drive and probably would have won us the football game. In fact, that really should have been my fourth crucial point to us losing this football game, was Kendall Fuller's pick. Kendall Fuller had a pick. He jumped a route, and I can't necessarily remember exactly who it was. It may have been Thompson, who he was guarding at the time. There was basically I think it was a post route where the receiver came out. There was some hand exchange before he ended up cutting to the outside. Kendall Fuller saw it, made a jump on the ball, caught the football, came down with it, and what we thought was a pick. And then we ended up getting a penalty for illegal hands to the face, which negated the interception. And for the most part, it was a correct call to make. But I don't blame Kendall Fuller for the play at all. To be honest with you, I don't feel he intentionally tried to take his hand and swipe the helmet of the football player. I think he was playing handsy with the guy. And if any of you guys have played the game of football, especially on defense, you know sometimes your fingers just end up in the face mask. It's not where you intend to grab. You can't predict every single time where the opposing player's head's going to be. You just want to get your arms wrapped around them and bring them down. Sometimes, your hand motion ends up putting your fingers in the face mask. I don't think it was something he intentionally tried to do. I don't think it was something he intentionally tried to put his fingers into. I don't think it was something where he intentionally tried to swipe the head of the football player. Both of those are illegal. I think it's just a matter of he was trying to get his hand up to either grab the shoulder or grab the hand. I remember that was one thing he was trying. I think he was trying to take the opposing player's hands and swat them away. He ended up just grazing. That finger ended up getting caught on the face mask and pulling on it. Not a good play. Not something that went our way. But if that wouldn't have happened, in which case I'm chalking it up as pretty much an accidental face mask. If that wouldn't have happened, that would have been the end of this football game, and we'd have walked away with a victory in this game. Between the Kendall Fuller face masks, which should have been a pick, between the missed field goal, or not the missed field goal, but the field goal that didn't happen because of a false start by Stacey McGee, because of the negated third down that we did not convert on in overtime, that could have extended our play, which allowed us to drive the football. That ended up just killing us because we ended up having to punt at that point. And then our defense's inability to really stop that offense late in the football game when it counted the most. Those four things, I think, are bullet points as to why we lost this football game, and those are small things, in my opinion. The exception of the defense, a lot of those other things are kind of ticky-tack things that add up to a loss as far as this particular week goes. The argument that I want to make for the overtime third and short run. I haven't seen a whole lot of videos on this yet. I've only seen one, and I've already heard from the media their opinion on this, and I do believe there is an opinion piece that is already out right now. Actually, no, it's not an opinion piece. It's just a news piece that's come up. That's right. It wasn't. The opinion pieces are coming. I can tell you that right now. And some of the quotes that we've already got from the coaching staff, Jay Gruden has already. John Keim was the one that came up with it about 3 hours ago today, Monday. He was upset over the grounding penalty, but he defends the third down run. I don't have a problem with third down run. I'm going to tell you that right now. I have no problem with the third down run. And the reason why, and there's some of you guys out there that are probably going to sit there and say, there's no way we should have put the football in P. Ryan's hands on third and short. The way that defense was playing against the run, it was inevitable that they were going to stop it. I would disagree with that wholeheartedly, because there were numerous times in this football game where the New Orleans Saints defense expected us to run, and we ran for massive yardage against them. By massive yardage, I mean by 4 yards or more. And 4 yards against a team that's stacking the box, that's expecting run, and you still are able to run out on them, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. So being able to come out, and even on third down, being able to come out when they expected to stack the box and we were able to run it on them before, if you're successful running the football, you're going to want to continue to do that. You have to have faith in that running game. There's not very many coaches that wouldn't have faith in that running game. You'd put the ball in that running back's hands. The thing is, on that particular play, ladies and gentlemen, it wasn't so much the effort of the running back. It wasn't so much the long developing play of our offense. Our whole offensive line got their asses kicked. Go back and watch that football play, and as soon as that ball is hiked, count to 1 second and find out how many of our Washington Redskin offensive linemen are standing straight up and down with New Orleans Saints players in the backfield making the play. The New Orleans Saints wanted that play on first down at the line of scrimmage battle. We got our asses kicked. We got our asses kicked. We did not want it bad enough. That's really, really what it comes down to, because a lot of people got blown up on that play besides Samaje Perine. Samaje Perine played a phenomenal game. I've been tooting Samaje Perine's horn out of all these running backs besides Chris Thompson. I'm not going to take Chris Thompson out of this argument. I'm talking about Rob Kelly and Mack Brown, or the late Mack Brown. He's no longer on his football team. But I've always kind of stuck my feather into that arena. For Samaje Perine, I just like the way that he's run the ball a little bit better. He wasn't noticeably better, but there were things that Rob Kelly was not doing that he should be able to do. From a back of his stature, a back with his physical abilities. Things that he is not able to see. That Samaje Perine was kind of doing the same thing, only Samaje Perine's a much different running back than Rob Kelly is. And now that Rob Kelly is hurt, and now that Chris Thompson is hurt, and Mack Brown's no longer on the football team, we got some guy that we signed just last week coming in here. The brunt of the running game is going to have to be thrown at Samaje Perine. And what better way than against the New Orleans Saints does Samaje Perine start to emerge as an every down back? And I say that because he's going to have to be an every down back. There were plenty of plays. A huge part of the success of this offense, and I don't know if a lot of you guys know this or not, but a huge part of the success on this offense has come on first down. We rush the football, and we only get maybe 2 or 3 yards. That doesn't seem like much to you guys out there, but I'm telling you, it's huge. We did not get that against Seattle. A lot of games, or a lot of times against that Seattle defense, we were facing down second and long, a second and beyond 10 yards. We had that many, many different times. If we can run that football for 3 or 4 yards on first down, we're going to continue to take it, because we convert. The success for converting a third down for a first down is much, much higher when we're facing third and short. And one of the things that contributes to third and short is being able to run the football for a good chunk of yardage or a decent chunk of yardage on first down. That is what you want. And that is what we started to see a lot in this football game. There were only a couple times on first down where they stuffed us. There are plenty of times in this game where on first down we ran it for 2 or 3 yards. And it doesn't seem like much, but it adds up. And when you get on third and short, I love to be in third and short with this offense. That is how we're able to convert and have the success that we do, is third and short. Third and short is the key. So, having said that, Samaje Perine was starting to show me where he's able to make cuts towards daylight. He wasn't showing me that in the first 4 weeks of football. Now we're sitting here at week 11, and he's starting to make cuts to make defenders miss. He's starting to make cuts, and he's starting to see holes open up and running towards daylight. And it's per that peripheral vision that I was talking about. I've been talking about that for the last 2 weeks. We started to see that in this game. Now, mind you, the New Orleans Saints are not as stout at running the football as, say, the Seattle Seahawks and the Minnesota Vikings. But I think that confidence in running the football on game day is starting. I think it's going to help him. I think it's going to help him out a lot, especially since he's a rookie. And that's another thing to take into consideration. He's young, and he has a lot of potential ahead of him. I'm not saying he's going to come out and be an Alvin Kamara. That's, he's not going to be an Ingram. He's not going to be, he's not going to be an Ezekiel Elliott. And some of you guys are wanting us to draft a first-round running back so that we can get our, Ezekiel Elliott. I don't necessarily think that we need one. I'm not saying Samaje Perine is our answer, but a Samaje Perine, another third down back, and a Chris Thompson is a hell. That is a great combination to go on. It really, really is, to be honest with you. Frankly, I wouldn't mind drafting a running back in this game, but I wouldn't draft one until at least after the 5th round. Personally, that's what I would do. Somebody to complement Chris Thompson and probably Samaje Perine, unless if Rob Kelly comes back and just has a banner couple of games, there would be an argument. But beyond that, I don't necessarily think Rob Kelly is a guy that I would want to go to in the future as far as a Redskin running back is concerned. But my argument on running the ball on third down, we were having a lot of success at running the football in this football game. The whole fourth quarter and parts of the third quarter. The fourth quarter, we had 2 possessions in the fourth quarter where Samaje Perine was gashing this defense. Gashing this defense up and down. We had our 2nd and goal that we gave him the football where they stacked the box on goal line. We still gave him the football, and he scored a touchdown for us. You guys weren't bitching about that. Okay, he comes back out, and he runs really, really well in the fourth quarter for our football team. He does really, really well in this whole game. But then he comes out in this final quarter, this overtime game, this third down, and is not able to get the play, and a play that wasn't necessarily his fault. It's going to be interesting to see how we judge his running game based on that one play. And I think that's a huge disservice to the running back. I think that's a huge disservice to the offense because it wasn't just him that blew up that play. I've got faith. I have no problem with the play that was called. If it was me and I was head coach looking at 3rd and 1, would I want to do a quarterback sneak? I would seriously think about it. But if I know I'm running the football with the success that that I've got at the running game, I would probably give it to him. Because take a look at it this way. You're asking for a quarterback to do a quarterback sneaker after he's already taken 2 massive hits in this football game to the head. I don't necessarily know if I want to put him in harm's way as far as contact is concerned. Another thing, a quarterback sneak would not have worked in this play because the offensive line got their asses kicked. Yeah, there's no way that play would have worked doing a quarterback sneak. And another thing, give it to your running back, the guy who's strong, the guy who's stout, the guy who's low to the ground and who's been playing a really, really good game. And if it doesn't work, give the ball over to your defense, and hopefully they can stop and we can look at another shot. That didn't necessarily happen. The Saints ended up coming back and winning this football game. It is what it is. We go down 34-31. We ended up dropping to 4-6. We're 3rd in the NFC East still. Our playoff hopes are pretty much gone at this point. I don't see us making the playoffs in the 2017 season. But then again, I wasn't necessarily certain that we were going to make the playoffs in the 2017 season. We are playing better football than what I expected, though. I will tell you that. The Terrell Pryor experiment is pretty much toast. I don't see that really going anywhere for the rest of the season, to be absolutely honest with you. He probably won't be a Redskin in 2018. I still don't understand why we don't trade him to the Browns when they offered us a trade deal. Yeah, that's pretty much going to be it. We're looking at the next 2 games are going to be big division rival games. We've got the New York Giants. This is hate week, ladies and gentlemen. This is Giant hate week. The Giants came out in their last game, and they ended up winning it, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, they ended up winning their game here. Who they ended up playing? They ended up winning against the Chiefs. They ended up winning 12-9. I don't even know what to say to that. 12-9. And go New York Giants. Yeah. Alex Smith ended up throwing for 230 yards with 2 interceptions. Eli Manning threw for 205 yards. And Eli Manning, you kind of felt was going to come out and play a big game because he was taking a lot of crap from the media as far as his performance goes. But, I mean, they've lost a lot. They've beat the Broncos and the Chiefs, and that's it. Every other game they've played, they've lost. Coming off a huge victory against the Chiefs, you know that team is going to be ready to play us. They're going to be coming up. They're going to be ready. They're going to have to play us at home, though. And the New York Giants, you know, half that football team is going to be dressed in blue because that's just the fan base we have here. We don't travel well at home. And then we got the Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys without Ezekiel Elliott will be at Cowboys Stadium for that game, a game that we have to win because we can't get swept by another team in the NFC East. That's a game we really have to win, and it's a game that we probably can win because the Cowboys are on a downward spiral right now. Then we got the Chargers, Cardinals, Broncos, and the Giants. We've got a fairly decent schedule coming up here, games that we can win. And we look forward to doing that. So that's pretty much going to do it for me, ladies and gentlemen. I will catch you guys next time after the New York Giant game. There may be another video that I come out with, depending upon some of the news that we get. Obviously, if we lose Chris Thompson for the rest of the season, that's going to be huge. I may end up doing a video based on that, but we're just going to have to see. Post your comments down below. Let me know what it is you guys think. Let me know some of your thoughts on what happened with this game against the Saints and the loss that we ended up taking. And we'll catch you guys next time. Remember, us Redskin fans, the Twin Feather, we ride together. Redskins for life. Peace out. We'll catch you next time.